All right. So the NHL decided to, in the middle of the season, change the size of goalie equipment. And at first, it's like, okay, well, I'm laughing this off. Then they start showing replays and saying, okay, well, here the goalie pads make a difference. Here the goalie pads make a difference. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I mean, I've done videos about, the NHL's need to increase scoring or do they not need to increase scoring, debating about whether more goals mean it's a better game. I've also had the debate about whether or not goaltenders now are that much better than goaltenders from 20 years ago, or if they're just that much taller. I mean, I went through hockey cards from 25 years ago, and almost every goalie was below 6 feet tall. Now most of them are 6'4" to 6'6". That's a huge difference. And in terms of being able to block the net, you don't really have to move as much. You don't have to do as much as a guy who's 6 inches shorter than you to be able to cover that amount of real estate. So I'm kind of on the fence on this one, whether it's a good move or a bad move. I know goalies, some of them are fine with it and some of them are not. And it potentially could cause, I mean, goalies are a strange bunch. Their psychological makeup is different than the rest of the team. We know that. And, sort of like kickers in football. And if that gets disrupted because the pads have changed in size in the middle of the season, actually right after the All-Star break, so, during the most important time of the year, they've decided to make a change in goaltenders' equipment. It likely leads to more goals temporarily until goalies figure out how to make up for it. The other thing is, what they did apparently is they slimmed the pants down so that there's um, sort of like side flaps they had that basically were able to stop the puck as well. So there are some goaltenders that argue that they're more vulnerable, but there's other goaltenders that say no, they're fine. And the one comment that apparently was made was, "Don't worry about the goaltenders who are whining because they're probably the worst cheaters in the bunch," which is true. I know whenever goaltending equipment, net size, any of that stuff gets talked about, there's certain goaltenders who go, "If they do that, I quit." And these are often the guys that when you see them in the net, they look like Michelin men. So, John Sebastian Giguère was the most obvious example of that back in the day, where you'd look in the net for Anaheim and there was no net because J.S. Giguère's chest protector was huge and there was nowhere to shoot. The glove, the blocker, everything was huge on that guy. He was a good goaltender, but his equipment definitely helped him prevent goals. And I guess here's where I kind of have a problem with it. Goaltenders now have a save percentage. 920 is not unusual. 925, 930. Goaltenders 25 years ago, you're looking at 905, 910 as being really good save percentage. Goaltenders are better now than they were then, but they're not that much better. Defensive systems have been brought into place that are better too, but there definitely, I think, is room for taking goaltending equipment down a size. The problem is this: they did it in the middle of the season. Now, goaltenders have been pushing back and pushing back and pushing back on it. And apparently the chest protectors are the next thing to get resized. And what they said on Hockey Night in Canada tonight was basically, it was either Hockey Night in Canada or Sports or Hockey Central, is that goaltenders are going to fight that one. Because that's the big one, it's the chest protector. Because, you got hockey jerseys now have giant logos. The way that you can tell the difference between my old jerseys and my new ones, the logos are absolutely gigantic. And it's kind of funny because the chest protectors have grown to match the logos, or the logos have grown to match the chest protectors. I don't know which it is. But it is really obvious when you look at a goaltender in the net from 20 years ago and you look at one in the net now. Actually, it's more than 20 years ago now because John Sebastian Giguère, you're looking at, well, no, not necessarily, because John Sebastian Giguère, it was 07 that the Ducks win the Cup, right? And it's a few years before that he goes to the Ducks from Calgary in a trade that Calgary probably regretted after. But, yeah, 20 years ago, you look at where goaltenders were. And then save percentages started really creeping up. And I don't think that every goaltender in the league has gotten better over the last 20 years. I find that hard to believe. And it's going to be interesting to see because I've already talked about how goal scoring went up due to teams being tired and the schedule being what it is, now they've added in the new pads on top of that. We could be back to pond hockey by the end of the season if this has that psychological effect on goaltenders that it could. Anyways, I just figured I would discuss this. I want to know in the comments what you guys think. Uh, what other goaltenders' equipment do you notice they could work on shrinking down? For me, it's just the chest protectors, the big one. Blocker, gloves, all that. That all seems to be relatively the same as it was back when I was watching hockey growing up. But there's no comparison between the way a goalie looks now and the way a goalie looked back in the late 80s, early 90s. That's why I have a hard time with it when people say, oh, goalies were garbage back then. Goalies weren't garbage. They were all stand up. And when you have a stand up goalie, he looks bad when he allows a goal. As opposed to a butterfly goalie, he looks like he's just, you know, flopping around and diving across to make the save. A stand up goalie plays square and just looks bad when a goal goes in. I know Kirk McLean was the one I used to always use as an example. Very good goaltender, stand-up goaltender. And when he allowed goals, he looked bad. As opposed to a butterfly goaltender who might have a save percentage exactly the same as Kirk's. He might save exactly the same amount of pucks in a night. But he looks like he's making this tremendous amount of effort to make the save. And so he looks like a better goaltender than Kirk McLean did. But McLean's equipment wasn't huge either. So, you know, there's got to be some movement here, and I'm not sure how far this is going to go before goaltenders just say, no, we're not doing that. And again, it always turns into a contentious NHLPA versus the NHL thing. Even when they're working together, it somehow becomes that. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're just browsing your way through. Do you like Michelin Man goalies? Do you want no more Michelin Man goalies? Do you think equipment should just have no limits whatsoever and we should just have giant men covered in foam as your goaltenders? Why not? If goaltenders want to resist changes, just let them do whatever they want in the net, I guess. Um, or realistically, the NHL should get it figured out, and they should get it figured out soon because the NHL definitely doesn't seem to want to make decisions on anything these days, including the whole Olympics thing. They seem to have made the decision not to go, and now rumor has it they're over debating with the IOC about what they're going to get. So I don't know what I trust or who I trust right now, but we'll see what happens. Yep. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all again soon.